Welcome to another edition of the Heron Outlet. She is Alex Winley. I am Ian Hest, and as we get closer and closer, February 25th, right around the corner, just a little over 1 week away until finally, I think for everybody's sake, Alex, the start of the regular season into Miami's home opener and season opener against Montreal on February 25th from Drive Pink Stadium. As we get closer to that date, the last of the preseason fixtures coming into grasp, Inter Miami having a couple of former Eastern Conference rivals with them last week in the terms of Columbus Crew, and most recently a closed-door scrimmage against Montreal, which is where I want to start with you today. We have a lot to get to, Alex, but let's start with that closed-door scrimmage. According to Miami Herald, a 2-1 defeat at the hands of their first opponents in Montreal, but a little bit, I think, a little bit dicey, if you say, with not a lot of the starters playing. Victor Ulloa getting reportedly the only goal. We haven't seen them in a while. We'll get the chance to see them in an open door this coming Saturday against Austin FC, and what I think will be more of a competitive match. Phil had talked with you and I on Monday about, well, they had made this scrimmage against Montreal prior to knowing that they would be the first opponent on the schedule. And so he was sort of throwing out, do you show your hand right now? Do you only worry about yourself? He had sort of wavered back and forth, wanting to worry about themselves, but not wanting to give too much away. So not really a surprising result given all of that. But with all of that, is there much that we can make of it past that, as that is the very first opponent heading into the year?
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, Phil Neville said he probably didn't want to play his hand too much. So uh, it's almost as if he didn't play any of the starters really. Per Michelle Kaufman, she mentioned that Gregory, Yedlin, Kristoff, Robbie Robinson, guys like that, they didn't play. Campana didn't start. So yeah, I think I know fans want to make like a big deal about it, but a lot of the starters did not play, and for reading the report, it said a lot of in the second half, a lot of the starters changed over, so it was like a second team or Inter Miami CF2 guys or the subs. So, and like you had mentioned, Victor Ulloa got the goal. So I think Austin FC will be the real challenge for Inter Miami if they play like a full 90 and they lose, and maybe cause for concern. But a closed door against Montreal, first game of the season for them, and next week actually, the 25th. Yeah, there's no reason to show your cards. I'm sure Montreal showed their cards, so I think Inter Miami will take that, and then as they head into the first game of the season, they'll recall what Hernan Losada did, and then go from there. As long as they get the 3 points against Montreal opening day, then this friendly loss doesn't particularly matter.
As we look at the preseason forms of especially of these closed door sessions, but the couple of games that we've gotten to watch and scout as well, one thing that I've really noticed is none of them have been clean sheets. And I don't want to put too much weight into that, but the defense will be a large portion of what we talk about heading into the upcoming season, especially with two newcomers along the back line. We spoke with Phil on Monday, and he had mentioned that Kristoff off on the side wasn't probably going to play that much, but did talk about it wasn't going to play, but did talk about the partnership between he and McVeigh and how that's mostly been forming off the field right now. They're going to need to grow some time with it on the field, but also did talk about Mabika as being a fine understudy so far right now. And Ryan Saylor still to come in, and Ian Frey, who he had a lot of high praise for, even said possibly he thinks that he could be a U.S. men's national team player one year. So one day, 1 year. So I thought that was tremendous from a guy that we haven't really seen. So he does feel very confident in that back line. Obviously with Drake, we'll get to him later on in the show today. But having all of that, I guess I just wonder with the forward thinking of this team and how offensively minded that they want to be. Last year, they struggled to irk out those 0-0 draws, maybe a 1-0 win. Didn't have a lot of those, maybe even a 1-1 draw if you want to go for it. But to have those defensive performances at times were really lacking. And I wonder, just because of that, do you put a little stake in no clean sheet so far? Typically in preseason matches, things are a little more open ended, end to end, and that can allow goals all the time for it. So I guess I don't put too much stake in it, but it would be nice to see heading into the year a little bit more of defensive stalwart performances.
It's funny you mention that because Darren Powell is now on the coaching staff, and we've talked about Fort Lauderdale, excuse me, Fort Lauderdale CF and Air Mime CF2 winning their games 4-3. So maybe it's a bit of Darren Powell rubbing off on Neville in that regard. How they can't keep a clean sheet, but they're scoring at least. So if we look at the results, but yeah, that is a valid concern, and I am a little concerned about their center back depth. They only have Ian Frey, Sailor, Mabika, Kristoff, and McVeigh. That's 5 center backs. If one of them gets injured for a long period of time or gets suspended due to yellow card accumulation, it could be a bit of trouble for Miami. And I think they I don't know, like we saw with Schneider Borgelin this morning, we could see another Inter Miami CF2 player, get their first team contract. Whether it's there are plenty of Inter Miami CF2 players who are at center back, play as a center back that are good enough to excuse me, make the step up now. So yeah, there is a bit of a concern. But Neville did say he wants to score a lot this season, so um, if they win every game 4-3, who cares about defense? But still, that is a bit of a worry. But with Kristoff getting fit again and whatnot, hopefully, excuse me, that they'll be able to build that chemistry. And their first couple of games of the season will be difficult because they play Montreal, then the Union, and I think after that was New York City FC away. Let me double check that. Yeah, New York City FC away, then Toronto away,
Yep.
difficult start. So they're going to have to shape it up before the start of the season. But um, Neville's known to maybe bunker down in defense at times. So hopefully they'll get it done.
And you mentioned that the start of the season is up against number one, number two, number one, and number three in the Eastern Conference last season. They'll also play LAFC next year. They'll also play this coming year. They'll also play FC Dallas. They'll also play Austin. Like they're playing the top teams from 2022. I think that statistically they have one of, if not the hardest schedule coming up this season. So it definitely doesn't do them any favors to have it right off the bat the way that it is. That being said, I always go back to this. I was taught this when I was a kid playing down here that whenever a game is played, soccer is the only sport in the world where when the ball is kicked off, you can have one of two choices. If you don't allow a goal, you cannot lose. But if you don't score, you cannot win. And you need to make that choice. And this team, I give him credit because I was always the type of guy that loved you have to score to win. I want to win. Let's go. And so this team has also been clear. They want to be that when the ball is kicked off, you cannot win if you don't score. And so as long as they keep scoring, which they have in the preseason too, I think that everything can sort itself out. That brings us to this Austin FC game that we'll see this coming Saturday, Drive Pink Stadium. The last real big one that we'll see before things get very down and serious come next week. This one I expect to be kind of like, if we cross our sports analogies here, kind of like a third NFL preseason game where a lot of the starters are going to get in. You're going to see more of a first team. You're going to see a lot higher of an intensity match, especially with some fans in the stands. We'll see how many are able to get in there on a Saturday evening. But I expect this to be a lot more of, okay, we've worked out some of the wrinkles and all that. Now we're going to start implementing them. And I expect this to be a lot more of what we expect to see Inter Miami look like come the start of this season.
Yeah, and Austin are a very good team. They just re-signed Sebastian Risi to a 4-year contract till 2026. My math is off. Or 3-year contract till 2026, and they're going to be looking to bounce back. They drew Sacramento Republic, I believe, a couple of days ago, so they want to get a final win during their preseason. So yeah, Miami are going to look to go for it. And I believe that game is open to season ticket holders, so there will be a couple of fans and quite a bit of fans in there. And they're also unveiling their new away kit, Lanoche. I
La
don't think I'm
Noche.
pronouncing that correctly.
We'll
La
get your
Noche,
Spanish
there
right.
we
It's
go.
La Noche for yes.
Yeah, I'm
For
trying my
the
best.
night.
Yeah, I'm mixing my languages. But yeah, La Noche. They'll be unveiling that weekend as well. So should be a fun time. There's also a meet and greet and a lot of cool stuff that the club is doing. So yeah, so and the game, as far as the game goes, yeah, I'm a little concerned about defense. They really need to get it together because they have a really stacked attack now with Stefanelli, Joseph, Schneider, Borgelin coming in, Campana looking fit and ready, Robinson coming back from injury, Lacava, Lassiter, like Robert Taylor, even Coco Jean. It's really stacked, Pizarro, whatever, but. Yeah, they defensively they have to get it together, and Austin FC is a good test. So let's see if they can uh, you know, uh, pass that test with flying colors, or if not, then yeah, they have to do some tweaking. I feel.
And again, it's going to come back to first team choice. That's going to be what we talk about a lot this upcoming season because there are a number of ways Phil can go every single match. He really has a lot of options at his fingertips. If you want to go with the speed of Lassiter one game, if you want to go with a little bit more of a ball carrying with Pizarro one game, if you want to go with a more of a maestro type with Stefanelli, there's a lot of different options that he's going to have to mix and match and see once he throws all the ingredients into the pot, which one tastes the best. And that can start in preseason. It will take some time within the season, but that is a huge challenge of his coming in. I think that there's even going to be a bigger challenge now in the introduction of Schneider Borgelin, as we found out this morning, signing a first-team deal for the next 2 years with options for 25 and 26. And a really fantastic piece of business for Inter Miami. If you go back to watching Inter Miami 2 recently, he has been really the goal-scoring threat time and time again, a strong physical forward, but has the speed, has the pace to get around defenders, really has a tenacity about him that you like to see in a striker. Before I get into the business side of it, just from your scouting standpoint, what do you love so much about Schneider Borgelin?
Good. He's a big physical player. Like you said, he has speed. We were watching him against St. Louis a couple weeks ago, and he looked the part. He looked active.
He
He can
almost
link
took
up
out the
play. He's
entire
not.
media section.
Yeah, yeah. That was the moment I was thinking of actually. Yeah, he slid well, but yeah, he's good at link up play as well. He's not just a back to goal kind of um center forward, although he is tall, but I think he's taller than Campana. I think he's taller than Campana too. Like he's 6'4", and Campana's what 6'2", 6'3", so he's a big center forward who can play with his back to goal, but he can also link up play and get him behind. And he played under Darren Powell, so getting up to the first team now with Darren Powell as an assistant coach, I think that's gonna be really good for his development too. And plus, he's a South Florida native, and we want those homegrowns coming through um, the system. Although he did play in the Philadelphia Union Academy, we're going to mention this in a few seconds. How Chris Henderson was really smart to include his homegrown rights in that Damian Lowe deal, and I think they did that obviously for this reason now. So yeah, he's a great player, and I'm excited to see him continue to develop with the first team.
Yeah, it was a very clever piece of business on Henderson's part because it was almost an afterthought. You see the headline: Damian Lowe traded for $225,000 in allocation money, and that was all pretty much people paid attention to. On the back end of it, underneath it says and the homegrown rights to Schneider Borgelin. You would have thought, well, wait a minute, he's been playing for Inter Miami too. What's up with that? Well, Philadelphia still owned his homegrown rights, but as an Inter Miami player. By getting those rights, it allows Inter Miami to make this move. And as a homegrown player signed with the first team, that doesn't count against the cap. Absolutely nothing against the cap for at least the next 2 years. And then the team has an option both in 25 and 26. So you're talking potentially 4 years of a forward, of a striker, not counting against your cap. Whether or not he's a starter every day or not, and even when the possibility at the end of that for sell-on clauses and a lot of things that can come into the mix there, it makes a ton of sense and is really clever when you look at how they've developed with Benji as well, and how they're using the pathway from the second team to the first team. Just some really clever business on that part, and something that will not just this year, because it's not a move that you make for this year. It will provide depth, and they have a ton of depth at striker now. you can even make the argument there's too much because some guys are going to need minutes and you struggle to think about where they're going to get it at times. But they have set themselves up for having a long-term path at a high cost position that will allow them to continue to have depth even after your designated players perhaps move on. And so what you have opened up is flexibility at the top end of your roster while solidifying that middle thick part that will not cost a lot of money for the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. It's very good cap management. Something that is, it will, this is something that you reap the benefits for next year and the year beyond, but something that will definitely come into play in the future. As that stands, another guy that is locked in for the next several years, your goalkeeper of the year finalist in 2022, Drake Callender, locking in a new deal for the next 3 years with an option for 26, I believe, with the club. And a great deal there. Nick Marsman now in the final year of his deal. Haven't gotten the true numbers on Drake's new deal. And that'll be interesting because Inter Miami heads into this year carrying 4 goalkeepers. Now, they won't dress 4 goalkeepers on every single game. You'll probably see a lot of CJ Dos Santos starting for Inter Miami too. Cole Jensen, their first-round draft pick as well, will probably start the year spending a lot of time down there and trying to get a lot of minutes. But it is a little bit rare to have 4 known commodities in terms of goalkeepers that you have locked in for this whole year. Nick Marsman now finds himself in a little bit of a limbo with the last year of his deal and making, I believe, the most of any backup goalkeeper in all of MLS who will enter this year as. So it definitely, is a great situation for Drake. He has the belief of the front office. He's the number one guy. We're not going to start the year with the goalkeeper controversy that at times we were, trying to find when it didn't really exist last year. And so this is really the front office and the club saying, hey, you've worked your way through the system and now here's your turn and this is your time. And it was wonderful to hear from Drake about what it really meant for him and hear him say about how this doesn't change his role, that it only makes him want to work harder to say that he's worth what the team is investing in him. And I thought that was a really nice way for him to be recognized for the season that he had last year.
Yeah, and I think we're all excited for Drake. He's shown that he's able to, be that number one goalkeeper and starter. And he was obviously very excited for the new deal and ready to get going. And yeah, he's a clear undisputed number one now, and that poses questions with Marsman. This season, this is the last year of his contract. He's on quite a bit of money, and we all know that this is also the last year of the sanctions. So if Marsman doesn't continue, that's a lot of money cleared up next season, and then we can get into Pizarro. This is also his last season, and but as far as the goalkeeping goes, great for Drake. He's shown that he's able to improve, and I think he's one of the few Inter Miami players alongside like Ulloa and Robbie Robinson who are from the first season. I think he was acquired in a calendar. I think he was acquired in 2019, I believe. I have to go and check, but he's one of the few ones who were at the part of the roster during the inaugural season. So he's been through it all and all the controversy and sanctions and all that stuff. So he's a Inter Miami lifer now, and it's like how they have like Heat lifers with the Miami Heat. He's a Inter Miami lifer now. So we're all excited to see him kick on, and he was excellent last season, and hopefully he can continue that form heading into 2023. Because like we touched on the defense, he's gonna, if they don't improve, he's gonna have to step up his game and continue to make those saves.
The team was 11-5-8 last year when Drake got the start in goal. That counts to 38 points over the course of 24 games. If you add 38 points in 24 games, it puts you definitely in the running for a top 4 playoff seed, probably around that 3-4 line. If you extrapolate out to 34 games, you're talking about being probably right around like 50-52 points, which would have been in the spot for the 4th seed last year, right around there. So the team played better when Drake was in goal last year. He had close to a 70% save percentage. That's in the top third tier of MLS goalkeeping, and had a wonderful, great stop shopping ability. He does want to improve on that on his distribution. That'll be a big thought this year, especially with Miami wanting to play more possession based out of the back. I think that'll come into play a lot more. Do you have any cause for concern there in terms of playing out the back and relying on Drake, who has been a little shy of foot in terms of playing with the ball at his feet and making those tough decisions, especially when a team high presses?
Yeah, just slightly, but he's still young and he can learn that. But yeah, I know teams are going to see that as a weakness and press Miami just to get the ball back. So Phil Neville's going to have to come up with a way to circumvent that, and maybe that includes going long. And they have the forward to do that now with Campana and Borgelin being over 6'3". So worst case scenario, they could just go long and win the second ball that way. There's no harm in doing that, and there's no harm in trying to play out the back, but sometimes you got to know your limits. So I think it's not going to be like an aimless knock it long all the time, but I think if they're high pressing, they'll, the way it's set up, two center backs, maybe he can, Drake will be able to distribute it at least to the fullback that's on hugging the touchline there or on the left side. So yeah, plenty of different options, but yeah, Drake is gonna obviously have to step it up, and he knows that, but he'll continue to improve, and we're gonna be able to see his progress this weekend against Austin.
Phil did say earlier this week that he thought, in his opinion, that they have probably, or maybe, I don't know exactly his words, but it was along the lines of, if it's not the best, it's one of the best goalkeeping rooms in MLS, top to bottom, in terms of Drake, Marsman, CJ, and now Cole Jensen. And you throw in the goalkeeping staff that they have under Seva Saha, that is really a top-notch staff that Inter Miami has here. That goalkeeping room is now turns and looks like a good strength. And often I feel like fans or us in the media, we don't really pay too much attention to the goalkeeper because it's not an outfield player. It's sort of isolated. They train off on the side. They do their own thing. We don't really analyze it a lot. We're going to try and do that a little more this year, because I think what Inter Miami has done is very clever in terms of how they've organized this for the future, to be able to have a natural path and really have a strength in an area that is, I want to say, ignored by a lot of MLS clubs to their detriment. When we talk about some of the downfalls of Major League Soccer compared to other top leagues around the world, goalkeeping is probably where you would start. And goalkeeping has not been up to par with that of goalkeeping in some of the better European leagues, even some of the better South American leagues in the past several years. And so for Inter Miami to put the emphasis on this position, where I think some of the other top MLS teams that they want to be compared to have not, this is a very positive sign for the club, because ultimately, and I know that I kind of sound like a broken record here, but ultimately what there seems to be is this clear vision of, let's take care of that like bottom is the wrong term, but that bottom 70%, 75% of the roster, your bench guys, your reserve guys, your goalkeeping staff, your spot minute starters, your super subs, all of that. Let's find those 5 outfield players that are going to be our everyday guys, your Gregory's, your Jean Motas, those guys. And now we can focus on spending the big money at the top. And that's where our designated players are going to go. That's where our allocation money is going to go. And that's a very good recipe in MLS. It's a very clear and concise way. It's shown to be very effective. Teams like Toronto previously, teams like Columbus, teams like Portland were very successful. And especially Chris Henderson was very successful doing this at Seattle as well. So it seems to me like that vision is getting more and more defined as some of these moves come in. I say that because the last note that of what we were talking about with Phil earlier this week was, he had sort of mentioned tongue-in-cheek that they were thinking about making one more move before the start of the season. When asked about it, he said basically that shop has closed. This is going to be the roster that we head into the season with, and we'll see if there is a move come the summertime, or as everybody nods their head, winks, when are you going to say Leonardo Muschetti again? We'll
Hello.
go back into that. But this seems to be the roster that the team is going to carry heading into this year.
Yep, and they're gonna have to live with it. I think they're confident with it, and with the sanctions, they did their best essentially. I know there are gonna be people shouting, "Why didn't they just buy out Pizarro?" and then yada yada yada. No, it's more complicated than that because I don't know. It has to do with freeing up more money, and just because you buy out a DP spot doesn't mean that you're going to be able to, sign any DP because there's still money taken up, and yeah, it would have been really confusing, which we addressed on last week's show. But yeah, this is the squad that they're going with, and it's up to Phil Neville now and the coaching staff to get the most out of them. But all the guys seem super confident and ready and quite happy to get on with the season, and they look ready to go. And Phil Neville thought that they were going to get another player, but like you said, the shop is closed, and he did mention in the summer that they would probably maybe add some more additions. So that's the beauty of the MLS season, is that halfway through the season you can literally just improve. Well, any clubs, Europe, whatever, but in MLS especially, bringing in players mid-season can change your season around. We saw that with Alejandro Pozuelo, and large part of him in his play was the reason why Miami and Higuain's resurgence was a reason why Miami were able to get into the playoffs. So yeah, let's see how that goes, and um, it could be whoever they bring in the summer. It be a club shifting moment
Well,
essentially
and let's not
if it
forget,
is so.
even if it's not the name or two names that everybody's talking about, Alejandro Pozuelo was only available because Miami went into the season with only two designated players last year, right? They had that open designated player spot. If they had not, then they would not have been able to sign. They would not have been able to sign Pozuelo or trade for Pozuelo to hold that spot. So they have that, and it wouldn't be surprising if they do a similar thing. There is a financial advantage, especially with Campana and the U22 or the young designated player deal that he's on. There is a financial incentive for them to get to that third designated player at the end of the year. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do that. But for now, here's where they heading into the 2023 season. All right, Alex, let's have a little fun with a couple of topics here. Obviously, you mentioned Saturday night in at the end of the or during the Austin FC game, they will unveil La Noche, their alternates for the 2023 season, their special edition jerseys, kits for the 2023 season, going off of La Palma from last year. Similar design to La Palma, a little different. We've seen a lot of photos leak of this. Primarily, fans will notice it is a much more vibrant pink. It is a lot more neon fluorescent pink this year. A little bit of a hush tone pink last year for La Palma. They obviously had that insignia underneath with the palm trees for La Palma. La Noche, it kind of looked like waves, I think, for it on the design.
Yeah,
But
waves.
that will be unveiled. There have been a lot of those. I would encourage everybody to go to MLS's Instagram feed. You can see all the ones from around the league that have come out. Some pretty cool ones around the league. Your reaction to seeing the leaks, and what do you think of La Noche?
La noche. I swear, my brain wasn't working earlier. I apologize. I swear I know Spanish. I was just literally my brain wasn't working. But la noche, yeah, we've all the leaks. Well, leaks. They're up on the internet, but on the Heron Outlet Twitter account, we posted them, and yeah, I think it looks good. It's a lot more of a deeper pink. The trimming around the jersey looks nice. It's got a nice frame. There's I believe pink under the underarm, so it stands out a little bit more, especially if they wear pink shorts with pink socks. I think it'll be a really good complete looking kit. Or if they go with black shorts with a pink trim on the sides, it'll look phenomenal. So I think, as we've seen with Inter Miami, their pink has gotten progressively pinker as the club progresses, into their heading into their fourth year now. They've finally settled on a really deep pink that I would say the fans are satisfied with. And next season, Miami will get a new home kit, so this pink color jersey that they have, it'll probably be an even deeper pink next season. So La Noche looks good, and yeah, I'm a fan. I like the waves. I do like kits that have lots of color and funky patterns, although not too crazy. But yeah, I would say all of the MLS teams are doing, and they're knocking it out of the park this season. I don't know what's in like Adidas's like water cooler now, but all of it looks good now, and
A lot of like
you know
blended colors.
the
A
Chicago
lot of
Fire.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of blended colors.
Yep.
Red Bulls looks odd. Red Bulls looks like a
Yeah, I don't
a
like them.
kindergartner was just like painting with a couple of colors and put it
Smudged.
all together.
Yeah, and it got
Philadelphia's
smudged.
is
I don't
interesting
know. I don't
too.
like them.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I think Philadelphia just looks like a Millonarios, the
yeah,
Colombian team, and they just colored it in with Union colors. A lot of the same Adidas templates, essentially. Excuse me. I like Chicago Fire. They dropped this really cool retro looking kit with like their badge in the center. I think that's probably the nicest looking one so far.
I like Kansas
Austin FC
City's.
looks Yeah, Kansas City looks
Kansas
nice.
City's
Austin FC's looks a hot mess. Honestly, like it just I don't know. It's like a knockoff Barca kit from last season. Yeah, I don't know, but some of these New York City
Charlotte
looks
had a
cool
tough
with
time because
their
that newly minted one, the one that they had last year, that was one of the best jerseys that MLS has had in a long
Oh
time.
yeah,
So
the
that
black with the
was going to be
pink.
tough for them to follow up. But yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
I like the kit. Like you said, I like that it's like that highlighter pink. It's much more of like a punchy in your face type of pink. I want to see what they choose for a third color. We always keep thinking that it's going to be like a teal or an aqua or like a neon blue. It does look like the Freedom to Dream is again on the back of the kit, and I'm interested to see when they finally decide to go with a third color, what that's going to be and how that kit will look. But for now, I give 2 thumbs up to La Noche. I'm very very excited. I think possibly given we'll get into this now, possibly given the announcement that just happened this morning, the rosters unveiled for the 2023 first annual Inter Miami media match, which will pit Team Heartbeat, which is coached by DeAndre Yedlin, and drumroll please, has our very own Alex Winley playing for them, taking on Team La Noche, head coached by Joseph Martinez, with yours truly playing on it. So, Alex, you and I get to go head to head. We were also head to head in the scrimmage last
yeah,
fall.
yeah.
So, we keep getting put head to head against each other on this. But the
Yeah, I
nice
don't know.
are they? I think they might be trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
No, but really, in
Yeah.
all fun, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can see all the rosters on our Twitter page, on our Instagram as well. You can vote in the poll for who you think's going to win, Alex's Heartbeat or my La Noche. I was sad DeAndre passed me up in the picks. I thought that we had I thought that he wouldn't let me get passed up, and it's okay. I got faith in Joseph. We got a lot going on here, and we're definitely gonna come with a flair and an aggression style of play. Alex, your thoughts on your Heartbeat? A little unfair with some former
Jenny Chu.
national team
Yeah.
players on your team.
Yeah, Jenny Chu is on our side, former national team player. It'll be great. My skills have kind of gone down over the years since I don't play actively anymore, just to pick up here and there. But yeah, I think we have a good squad. DeAndre, he seems really excited. We have lots of great players on here. I'm looking up the roster again now. It's uh, yeah, no, man, it's our depth is crazy. So Michelle Kaufman,
Yeah,
Igor
you
Mello,
guys are
Ranji
stacked.
Sandoval, Jenny Chu, like Donovan Campbell, Ruthie Polinsky from NBC6. Yeah, a lot of great players. Let's see how La Noche could stack up. I know you guys got Chris Whittingham and
We're gonna play more of a
a couple
team game. We're gonna like
influencers
surround
actually.
you guys, and that'll be our game plan.
Yeah,
Chris will
yeah, but
inspect
it'll
the
be
pitch.
fun.
Chris will inspect the pitch, get everybody nice and organized, make sure that
Yeah.
everything is good to go. No, it should be a lot of fun. It's Tuesday as a part of kickoff week and getting ready for Saturday's game against Montreal. And it'll be a fun time. We'll try and avoid all the slide tacklings. Don't want any injuries before the start of the year. Let's continue our Eastern Conference breakdowns just for a little bit as we head into getting ready for the start of the year. I think on next week's show we'll probably talk about those top 3 teams from last season in the Eastern Conference. as those are the top or the first three games that Inter Miami will face in 2023. Last week we went through basically like the southeastern rivals with Orlando, Atlanta, and Charlotte. This week I kind of wanted to go with the newcomers or former newcomers or yet again newcomers in Nashville who will be rejoining the Eastern Conference this year. Again, back and forth they go. Inter Miami playing that first ever playoff game against Nashville as a part of the Eastern Conference a couple of years ago. They rejoined the conference with the introduction of St. Louis SC to St. Louis City SC to the Western Conference. So a little bit of a familiar face, a little bit of changes. Obviously, Haney Mukhtar for them. Walker Zimmerman, you always know what you're going to get with Nashville, and welcoming them back into the Eastern Conference, Alex, in 2023.
Yeah, and yeah, the expansion rivalry from 2020 is back, and would you consider Nashville Inter Miami rivals? I know a couple of their fans, kind of jab at Inter Miami,
Yeah, I
but
think that
I
they
feel like
want
Inter
it. I
Miami
think
have
it.
other.
I think they want it to be. I think honestly, it helps Nashville more than it helps Miami if it's a rivalry. But I get it. You were expansion teams in the same year.
Yeah, and all the focus was on Miami that year, and Nashville was predicted to not really do well. Now the it's kind of flipped, but I feel like Nashville has kind of plateaued. They made the playoffs in every year of their existence, but they haven't really, you know, I've been reading from a couple of their fans that their coach Gary Smith, they play kind of like a bunker and counter type of soccer, which can be good against teams that want the ball, but when Nashville's on the front foot, they don't really have much up top other than Hani Mukhtar, and they don't really have a striker. They let go of Ake Loba, but um, I don't think that frees up a DP
Well,
spot for
yeah,
them. So
no,
now
Ake
they're kind of
Loba went
stuck
out on
for
loan, so it's like the same situation as Pizarro
with
from last
Pizarro.
year.
Yeah, yeah. So they have no striker up top except for
CJ
um,
Sapong.
was it yeah, CJ Sapong, and that's essentially it. So they do have a good squad though with Randall Leal and Alex Muyl and all those guys, Hani Mukhtar as well. They're an interesting side, yes, and obviously Walker Zimmerman playing for the national team and all that good stuff. But yeah, let's see. I don't know. I'm concerned with their forward line. Other than Mukhtar, like they don't have a consistent goal scorer, and I know a lot of their fans are a bit upset over that. So
Well, they did go out. They
yeah,
did
let's
go
see
out
how it goes.
this year and get Fafa Picol, the South Florida native, the
Hmm.
Gazelle, as people will know him growing up down here. It's good to see him catch on with them after a really good spell with the Dynamo for a couple years. That he'll now
Yeah.
probably play that left winger role. And then also the one that's really interesting to me for them is who's going to be up next to Walker Zimmerman. You know, because of their situation in defense, it probably will be Jack Maher. And if fans remember, that was, sort of one of those names that were thrown out there as an Inter Miami draft pick, possibly a couple of
Yep.
years ago, and he went to Nashville instead. It'll be interesting to see if his time has finally come. But yeah, they definitely are I would say, a defensive minded, strong defensive minded team that has some quality, one or two exciting playmakers. You mentioned Alex Muyl, obviously Haney Mukhtar, one of the best players in the league. So that's easy. But they have a very individualistic style in their offense, and I think that ultimately that will be the biggest challenge for them, is to find camaraderie in all of these moving pieces and to see what fits and what doesn't. And that could perhaps take them a little while heading into the season, and they could wind up being in a situation where they're not off to the hottest start and need to pick up the pace. Kind of similar to what Miami's 2022 looked like. It wouldn't surprise me if they had a
Yep.
similar 2023. The other one that I wanted to ask you about is maybe as we look towards the last year's contenders and we look towards the rivals, now let's look towards who could be your Eastern Conference team that maybe is under the radar heading into the year, wasn't maybe was a playoff team, but barely a fringe playoff team or right around there that you could see making another jump, another leap into 2023.
That's a good question. I don't know. There are plenty of teams that retooled and gotten better, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Charlotte will make a jump. I think they'll get a little bit better. I think Toronto will be better than what they were doing last season. I think DC maybe could be a slightly bit better. I do think some teams will regress. I think Montreal will probably regress. They lost a lot of players. They have a new coach. They probably won't play as well. New England, I don't think they'll get any significantly better. I think New York City FC will regress a lot too. They did lose a lot of their MLS. Like I know there was a graphic that listed their MLS Cup winning squad, and like 10 of the starting 11 players are gone now, so I think they're going to have a difficult time. But I think Orlando will be a little bit better, but I feel like they're going to take time to gel. I don't Atlanta, I feel like they're in a rebuild mode. I don't know if they'll be significantly better. But yeah, if teams are the teams that I see getting better, Charlotte for one, um Orlando for one, and Toronto. I think those three. I think they'll make a jump. Chicago, I don't know about them, but they're
It's
still
tough.
trying their
It's
best.
tough times in the
Chicago.
Windy City for them. Yeah, I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with a
So
lot of them. Orlando is the the consensus pick right now. They sort of won the off season, if you will. But again, I bring up my football references. The New York Jets claim to win the off season every single year, and look how that's going for the Jets. So it's one thing to win the offseason. Let's see if they can win during the regular season. The other one that you mentioned, I think, is DC United. I think they'll be much improved. Christian Benteke getting a full season there in DC, and also the addition of Mateus Klisch from Leeds. I think a nice hybrid midfielder that will fit in and really link up that play for them that was so desperately missing from them last year. A team that really when they were down, and it was tough to pull them back into wanting to play for really much of that season last year. I think a fresh start and getting some of the negativity from last year behind them, they could be a much improved team come 2023. All right, Alex. As we close up the show, we did want to mention one more time the scrimmage taking place on Saturday, this coming Saturday, the 18th, against Austin FC. Tickets are available for season ticket holders. We will both be there covering the game as well. And just a week's time, the home opener, the 25th against Montreal. That a night game. Most of the night games coming up this year, which again, I think that La Noche kit is going to look very nice in a dark drive pink stadium. You had mentioned to me before the show too something going on nice for T-Mobile customers to be able to watch the matches this season for me. What was that again?
yeah, T-Mobile, they're offering this really cool deal where if you're a T-Mobile and Metro customer, you'll get a free subscription for a year. A free MLS season pass subscription for a year. So if you're a T-Mobile or a Metro customer, you can get a free MLS season pass subscription if you already bought it. I do believe I see there's a link to get a refund if you already preemptively bought it. I know Ian, the Heron outlet, luckily
Yeah,
MLS
we'll be
Communications, they reached out to both of us, and
that was nice.
we are fortunate to get
And
complimentary
it's
subscriptions from
funny
you
though.
guys.
We don't we should get advertising for T-Mobile. We're giving them the free. We don't even T-Mobile isn't giving us
Yeah,
anything.
true. Yeah, no, but I think it's a good deal, for anyone, and they have a bunch of customers as well. And I think I was first a skeptic of this Apple TV deal, but now with the
There's a lot
rollout
of
and the
great content.
content, and
There's a lot of great content.
it's not and I see a lot of like non-American based fans saying that okay, maybe we'll get check this out for 15 bucks to see what the MLS is about, and it's not geo-blocked, so they can watch it anytime, and they can get into MLS now as a league. So I was a skeptic, but the rollout has been really great. And another thing on the Inter Miami club profile, I did speak to someone from the team, and they said they're working on it, and it'll probably be super in depth, and I think they're one of the last teams to put it out. So yes, they are working on a club profile.
They've
It'll
been
be out
working on it for
soon.
a
I know
while.
Apple TV. Yeah. I rather like them drop like a 10-minute thing than like I think St. Louis did like a 1-minute preview, which was just
Well,
it
they
looked
don't have
rushed,
they
but
don't have any
yeah.
games.
Yeah, they don't have a history. Oh, actually, I shouldn't use another club. There are a couple of clubs that only did like 5-minute things, and I think RSL was maybe one of them. I don't know,
I
but
think
I
the
have to double
Revs
check. But
only
yes,
had
they
like a
are working on
2 or
it,
3 minute one. Yeah.
which is crazy. They have a great history, but
Well,
yeah, they're working on it. And yeah, it'll come soon, hopefully, before the season. I hope.
So much to get to, Alex. We are less than a week and a half away from the start of the 2023 MLS regular season, and it'll just be so much more from there. We can't wait to get started. A lot of coverage all here at the Heron Outlet. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack, heronoutlet.substack.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll have a bunch of fresh new stuff coming up there in the coming weeks. It's very exciting there. Follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Like, share, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. For Alex Winley, for our producer Andres, and for Austin Robillard, I am Ian Hest. We'll see you back here.